Hello there, chum. Jules here for FGS, also known as the Future Game Show. Mr. Roboto, hello. And I've got a very, very special video for you today because you are about to see what is going to be termed a scientific marvel, because I'm going to be talking about video games today that got me so irate with how bad they were that steam will not only shoot out of my ears, but likely also my anus. And the reason for my now piping hot piles are the terrible games that we're going to cover, because these were so bad, so utterly stanky, that they were removed from sale and ultimately destroyed. And because I'm looking to dive deeper than most other cowardly content creators, I'm barring myself from talking about E.T. for the Atari and the likes of Ride to Hell Retribution, as you already know about these deep-fried turds. So let's affix that weird bucket bib that babies wear, open our mouths and let the deluge of bin juice flow over us. As I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are video games so bad they were destroyed. So let's begin by talking about a greater disappointment than finding out that the new casting choice of Big G from The Witcher is going to be Andy Dick, and address the mess that was Jump Force. Now, as a white man in his mid-30s who shoots all of his videos in what appears to be an underground bunker, anime has always played a massive part of my life. I love the monstrous weapons, the huge personalities. Tommy, what are you doing, mate? What? You're putting big anime boobies on the screen again, aren't you? We're better than this, mate. Come on. Now, where was I? The monstrous weapons, the big personalities, oh yeah, and the massive waifu titties. I kid. I love anime mainly because it allows for the exploration of some truly off-the-wall concepts, and I rank Mob Psycho 100, My Hero Academia, and Dragon Ball up there as some of my favourite shows ever. So of course I was this level of jazzed when I heard that there was going to be a Shonen Jump video game combining all of my favourite characters into one glorious fighting title, and that was Jump Force. To say that the hype was real was kind of like saying that Yamcha kind of sucked in Z, a massive and obvious understatement. And when the gameplay snippet showed the likes of Luffy smashing the beans off of Frieza in a manner reminiscent of the Naruto Ninja Storm video games, well, things looked like a bloody home run waiting to happen. Yet unfortunately, this open goal missed the green entirely and scored a 3-point touchdown right in the faces of fans instead. Yes, I don't do sports. But what I did do was get so angry that I felt like I was going to experience a Super Saiyan level aneurysm, because this game absolutely shit itself. I think it was the moment that Frieza literally poochied himself right out of existence, not 3 minutes into the experience, that I felt that something wasn't quite right. Now, the game looked the absolute mutts nuts with all of its particle effects and shiny lights, but it was just pure bollocks the moment you actually tried to do anything. Characters slip past one another while trying to land combos. There's no indicator of the range of your attacks. You end up punching the air half the time. And after about 3 battles against the computer, you have just found your one near unblockable combo that all characters have, and you just mash this into the ground. Tutorials flood the screen in the single-player campaign, treating you like naught but a wee babby, and it soon becomes clear that Jump Force was basically the devs shaking its keys in front of your face while saying, "Oh, look at you, you pressed 3 buttons, you big, stupid, fat, lazy idiot. Oh, well done. Oh, look at the particle effects. Don't question what's going on. Ooh, we're not deep at all." Ooh. That was the devs, by the way. That wasn't me talking to you. Surprisingly, I wasn't the only one to feel my Dragon Balls yanked and plucked by Jump Force, and the game rightly got panned. So much so, in fact, that DLC expansions behind the scenes were dialed all the way back until the tap was finally turned off in 2022. Now, I know what you're thinking, 5 years or so for a fighting game isn't actually that bad, Jules. Well, you see, my friend, from fans who actually for some reason stuck with it, who told me about their experiences here, the service, the online service, never got any better. There were server issues constantly, and the devs just couldn't be bothered to fix it. They had all but abandoned the game in terms of making it better, but they were just plugging in DLC trying to rake as much cash as possible from anime purist fans. As such, Jump Force was basically just a shuttle service bringing people the last few DLC fighters and then f***ing off forever. Good riddance. Yet Jump Force isn't the only woeful weeb title that we'll talk about today, as it's time to speak on the utter tragedy that is Afro Samurai II: Revenge of Kuma. Now, when video game critics call a game a failure, that's one thing, but when the actual creative leads feel and publicly say the same, well, you know things got pretty wild. On paper, this Afro Samurai sequel had everything going for it, in that it was a follow-up to a decently reviewed video game with a rabid fanbase eager to experience the world of Afro Samurai again, and it had music by RZA, and it was written by a fairly esteemed Hollywood scribe who gave the world American Sniper. Yet for all the RZAs and snipers, this game was pretty much just Razzies and headshot wounds that were self-inflicted, because the game fell apart the moment you started playing it, because it forgot how to do even the most basic things correctly. Everything was wonky, especially those goddamn timing windows for the parry. It was basically just like, I'm going to attack you this time. Okay, I'm going to parry. Where's the acceptable window to do that? The prompt says here, but I've pressed it exactly when it pops up and nothing is happening. It's 5 to 10 seconds either side. 5 to 10... Are you... Oh, Kuma, you're pissing me off, mate. And if there's one thing that this Afro Samurai title needed to nail, it was the feeling of being an utter badass. Yet the only badass that we got here is the stinky waft of a game that utterly browned its own trousers. The style just seems off and in places is completely cringeworthy. And it's here that I want you to put up the DJ sequence in the nudist nightclub bit. For teen boys, hey! The narrative is so ham-fisted, the case the game comes in is honey glazed, and the audio mixing outside of the soundtrack is so atrocious that the sound effects will literally explode in your ears at 10 times the volume of everything else. This was a title that should have carved out an audience for itself by building on the original, yet burned all of that goodwill to the ground, becoming one of the lowest reviewed games of 2015. Now this, unsurprisingly, did not make for good conversations over at Publisher vs. Evil, whose rep Steve Escalante voiced perfectly in an interview with Gamasutra. I never know how you pronounce that. Given the game quality was not what people were expecting, it didn't sell like hotcakes, let's put it like that. And what this meant for players was refunds of the game, new copies being recalled, and the entire title being slashed from all digital storefronts. And speaking of slash, let's take a big piss over the face of the Walking Dead series for the moment and talk about Survival Instincts, a game that not even having its price hugely reduced could not save it from being utterly terrible. Again, this is a game that should have worked, but didn't because, surprise, surprise, it fundamentally didn't work. While the elevator pitch for the title of being to play as Durl as he sneaks and stabs his way through the zombie outbreak sounds like a right laugh, the game plunges Tower of Terror style right into the abyss for being programmed with so little care that it's hard not to imagine the devs over at Terminal Reality as anything more than zombies themselves. And things start terribly with the game looking like reheated dirt and running like if a slideshow was fed pure Vaseline through its input port. Yet this is the best part of the game, so I'm actually going to stop my glowing praise right here and turn my attention to the rest of this f***ing mess. Because Survival Instincts is a title that is so bad that it will make you want to ignore your own and throw yourself into moving traffic. If going on the weekly shopping run is enough to make you moan, then steer clear, my friend, as Survival Instincts is all about gathering supplies, and you'll be hitting up the same nondescript locations again and again and again ad nauseum in order to scavenge and loot. Now, as a concept, this is not too terrible because, there's definitely one easy way to ramp up tension in survival horror games, and that is by making sure that resources are finite or very, very limited. But here is the problem. It is the first hurdle where Survival Instincts falls over, and that is supplies are everywhere. You don't have to fight tooth and nail for an ice lolly or anything like that. It's just you're eating better than you were before the outbreak. And the worst thing is that the walkers who are trying to protect you, their one job is to stop you from getting them. They fail because they are so terrible. They are not AI. They lack intelligence. They are just assholes. If you thought that the original Resident Evil shufflers were slow, you have not seen anything yet, pal, because these brain-dead undead will amble at the speed of erosion and get so confused by simple doorways and obstacles, it's like you've asked them to try and figure out the square root of a colour. One of the main selling points here was to slip into the now very sweaty boots of Norman Reedus and slink through crowds of the undead, to use stealth and subterfuge in order to draw enemies away before then dashing in to grab supplies. Yet here, thanks to AI that can't can't work out how to move 2 feet to the left and go through an open door, you'll just waltz past them, pat them on the head, and grab supplies from right under their nose holes. This is not challenging. This is not fun. And everybody absolutely roasted this game alive, including the series creator Robert Kirkman, who basically distanced himself from the project. That's how bad it is when the original creator wants nothing to do with your existence. It's kind of like how my parents feel about me. And so Survival Instincts hobbled around without a purpose or an audience. The game was immediately slashed to 1/5 of its retail value just to claim back what money it could, and it was quietly pulled from physical release just a few months after. Thanks to the cheaper alternative of leaving games on storefronts, it lasted a little longer, but not 2 years after it originally shambled into view with its trousers down by its ankles, Survival Instincts was laid to rest. And it wasn't a peaceful ceremony. There was no cremation, there was no tears, there was no wake afterwards. In fact, the only celebration that was going on was the fact that it was gone and that they just chucked its body in a bin bag behind the McDonald's. And so we close on a game that I genuinely cannot believe got made and got into so much hot water because it failed to ask one simple, very important question. Mate, is she legal? Welcome to the Guy Game. Yeah, this is about to get real ugly, friends, as we talk about The Guy Game, a piece of trash with a face, and that face is Jeff Spangenberg. Now, old Jeffy here loves himself a bit of the booby, and by that I mean he orchestrated events during spring break in the early 2000s where he would get women to answer questions, and if they got the answer wrong, they'd flash their tits. As you do, and it's here that I feel very, very sorry for my editor Tommy, who has to show you footage of this game, but do so without violating any of the YouTube guidelines, so I'm sure that he's going to censor all of the images here with my face. Enjoy, Tommy. I gave you the challenge of doing a green screen last week, and now I've given you this job. I'm such a generous friend. Also, I feel very sorry for all the women in this game who quite possibly didn't know that their bodies would end up in a video game. And that game was the Guy Game, because do you get it? It's for the guys. You know the guys, then this is their game. Finally, a game for guys. Great. Good. Here, the player, a guy, has to answer questions and bet to see if the girls also being posed these questions know the answer. Answer. Turned into Matt Berry there. Answer. If you bet correctly, then you win the prize of the women flashing before going back to some more absolutely mind-numbing trivia. Because who wouldn't want to sip from that heady cocktail of brief moments of nudity and then boning up on general knowledge in between? I don't want to do that. I mean, if I'm in the mood, I don't know, load up some porn or something like that. I mean, the internet is quite full of it, in case you hadn't noticed. Or I just go down to my local Aldi and just stare deeply into the alleyway. There's always some weird shit going on down there. Anyway, long story short, Jeff and his grubby buddies released the Guy Game to the market and then literally made a different type of O-face when the market subsequently turned their pitchforks on them for a very disturbing reason. You see, scathing reviews and controversies in the media for just showing nudity, they don't actually affect titles like the Guy Game. In fact, it actually galvanizes their very pervy audience into wanting to experience what is so taboo and against the grain. But the problem is that one of the women in the game was not of legal age to consent to be in the game. So yes, the question to mate is she legal was no, making it very illegal to post pornographic content of her. Naturally, after the lawyers came knocking, the game was promptly removed, destroyed, but then weirdly refabricated into The Guy Game Game Over, which removed the teenager in question, but had even more content thrown into it. And it's at this point I hear you cry, Jules, you magnanimous eagle of a man with the eyes of a tiny shrew, how does this qualify for this video? Because clearly the game came back, it wasn't destroyed. Well, my friend, what you see here in The Guy Game Game Over is not a game. It was a DVD. So it was, at one point, a terrible video game that was destroyed and came back as an even worse pornographic movie. And there we go, my friends. Those were games so bad they were destroyed. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules, so you can go follow me over on the social medias at RetroJ on both Twitter and Instagram. Also, I'm aka Egg Daddy on TikTok. I've been asked to get on that. I'm too old for it. I already know this. The wrinkles I can see here. But I'm over there if you want to follow me for more content on that, and I will be doing more streaming over there with my good friend James Daly over on the FGS TikTok account. So hopefully you'll check it out, my friends. And also you can follow Tommy and his social medias here. I don't know if he's plugging it at the moment, but please give him a follow because he's a very good lad and he works very, very hard. And remember, I'll be back next Friday for my weekly slot, so make sure that you subscribe to the FGS YouTube channel to stay updated on that. Love you all, my friends, from the bottom of my heart, and I hope that you're doing well. Hope you're treating yourself with that love and respect, because even though we talked about utter trash games here, you, my friend, you are shining gold and you deserve the best things in life, like love, happiness, and success, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge. Big up to you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.